It's me, Miss Bo. Now I'm here to talk to you about the lesson components. These are components that you will see in every single lesson across all subject areas here within our grade band. Every lesson will include an anticipatory set, positive reinforcement systems, predictions or higher order thinking questions, vocabulary, a repeated storyline, comprehension questions, connections, activities, and a closing. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a real lesson that we teach here. For my example, I pulled up a science lesson on health. Every lesson will have I can statements, and it will also present to you the standards that we're using to drive the lesson. All right, so we have all of the components of the lesson that we spoke of earlier. We have our steps to critical thinking and problem solving and our higher order thinking questions. Here's our anticipatory set. In this example, the anticipatory set is a video. Students can pick which video they want to watch, and then based on that video, they answer a higher order thinking question about what they think we'll learn about today. They're asked to make a prediction. Science lessons, ELA lessons, math lessons, social studies lessons, they all have some different pieces in them, but this is all contributed to the core of the lesson, the core content, what we're trying to teach during the lesson. Core content in science also includes lab safety. Here's that repeated storyline I was telling you about earlier. The repeated storyline is something that you see throughout the lesson. Students are asked to reiterate the repeated storyline to tell us that they understand the theme of the lesson. Here's the vocabulary that I mentioned earlier. Every lesson will have vocabulary. Here's an example of a placemat. A placemat is just one tool that some of us use in our classroom that allows students to interact with the repeated storyline as well as the vocabulary during the lesson. Remember I mentioned the KWL chart? Well, this is what I was talking about, the chance for students to engage in inquiry, ask questions during a lesson. This is an example of the activities that you would see in a lesson. Remember those lesson components? Activities was one of those things. Our KWL chart can be printed out, and our students can engage in it in a variety of ways. You will also see universal core vocabulary built into all of our lessons. Universal core vocabulary is used school-wide at Metro School to foster functional communication with our students. Here are some of the core to this lesson. Just content that you would see in every lesson. Specifically for this lesson, it has to do with nutrients and health. Here's an example of how we use some of our curriculum resources to support our lessons. Unique Learning Systems is a curriculum that we are given here at Metro School, and it is fabulous. It supports us with different resources such as stories from the library as well as symbols. Here I've used a story within the lesson from ULS, Unique Learning Systems. Throughout this story, students will engage by activating the repeated storyline and engaging in universal core vocabulary. They will answer questions during the story as well, higher order thinking questions. And finally, making connections. Do you remember the component of the lesson that said making connections and diversity pieces? Well, this is what it was talking about. We asked our students to make connections to school, community, and the world. They do this by watching videos. They can be videos that are songs, stories, or just maybe a news article, a variety of things. These are just how our students make connections. Here's another example of a senses activity that engages our student during this lesson. And those are the examples for the components of the lesson.